Hello, welcome to the new video. And today we'll discuss about AWS S3 storage services. So yeah, let's go. So basically in AWS there are these storage services S3, EFS and EBS. And these are the types of S3 services that I'll explain later on. So, first of all, S3 is used for storing the unstructured data. Basically, if we have we have to store images, we have to store video, we have to store some files or everything. So, this is a unstructured data that for storing those we are using S3. EFS is basically used for file storage and they can be only done that can only be done on Linux servers. I explained this in my last video. And EBS is basically storing for block size, block structure data. Like it will divide the data in blocks, evenly sized block, and it will store them in blocks. So basically, S3 is one of the powerful storage services in AWS, and we call it as a bucket because its shape is also like a bucket in S3, in which we can fill all the data, images, videos, and everything that we need to store for longer period of time. So we can use S3. And S3 is created in a specific region under a specific account. And account is limited to 100 buckets, but this can be increased. And the size of the size of the data that can be stored is from 0 bytes to 5 TB. And uh, when we are storing the data in S3 bucket, it is stored in a object store like object it's stored in a object type where a key is assigned and value is the data that we are storing. Okay. And object is why it is called object, because whatever the data we are going to store, it will be stored as it is. And the object identifier should be unique because in so that it can be globally identified in AWS. So basically, if we have to retrieve something, we have to access something from S3 bucket, we can use that identifier and that data can only be pulled out. So duplication or name duplication is not allowed. We can access the S3 objects using S3 URL. So it is like accessible using HTTP and HTTPS. And most important thing is that there are many types of S3. We'll discuss about that also. And the few pointers that is very important, that can be asked in interview, that I have also faced, that this was asked in my interview, that if you can install operating system on S3. The answer is no, you cannot install operating system on S3. And S3 bucket is region specific service. It has a flat architecture. Flat architecture means inside bucket we cannot create another bucket. Flat architecture means not the hierarchical architecture but a flat, only one bucket can be created. Inside that, the bucket cannot be created inside one bucket. And bucket name should be unique. So there is a there are naming convention too, in which we should name our bucket. And also this URL that we are using, so it will start like http or https colon forward slash, and then our like Amazon EC2, then S3, because we are using S3 it will be mentioned, then slash, then our bucket name. And then we can access it. We will have a token that we can assume, and then we can access these buckets, these the data inside our S3 bucket. Okay. So basically, what are the key features of these S3 bucket? It is life cycle management. Like we can also do if after 30 days we have to push the S3 data to some other tier, that we'll discuss about tiering, and that we can set in life cycle management. After 90 days we have to push the data to other tiers. So this is basically done for the cost management purpose. Then we have S3 static website hosting also. So AWS creates website endpoint through which buckets can be accessed. So we no more have to access it through APIs, but we can do it through website. Then this question is very important. It is asked in interview that if suppose there is some disaster and we have lost the data, so how we can retrieve the data back, or what steps you have done in your organization. You should mention that we should be doing versioning. We should enable versioning in our S3 bucket. So versions are stored whenever a new data comes. It is stored with another version, and whenever this kind of disaster is there, we can go to, like, we can check the version and retrieve the data. And also cross region replication should be done, that this data should be replicated in various region. We can enable cross region replication and we can get the data from there. And versioning cannot be disabled, only it can be, once the versioning we have enabled, we cannot disable it, we can only suspend it for some time. Okay, and there is one delete marker also in versioning, so it hides the previous versions if we enable it. So basically these are the key features of S3. Now we come to tiers of S3. So we have S3 standard, S3 standard in IA infrequent access, S3 one zone infrequent access, S3 glacier, S3 glacier deep archive, S3 intelligent tiering. So basically you know the cheapest one is S3 Glacier Deep Archive for storing data. But for retrieving data from S3 Glacier Deep Archive, it is not only costly, but it is also it will take so much time, because it is stored. It The data is stored there, which can be which cannot be, which will not be accessed. So that's why the data is data that we will not access at all, or like maybe we can need it. And we don't have retrieval issue, that if it takes some time also it is fine. Some time matlab it can take a day or whatever. So then we should use S3 Glacier Deep Archive. So basically these S3 data that we are storing, the data that we are storing in S3, its copies are, three copies are created in all the in availability zone, in each availability zone in a region. So like that also, default also it creates three copies. So S3 standard is one where the storing of data and retrieving of data is fast. There can be multiple requests, so retrieval is fast over there. So this is little bit, of course the cost is there. And S3 standard infrequent access, like the data which we, like which we are which we will need, but we don't know we will need it very infrequently, so that we can use S3 standard IA. S3 one zone IA means only replication will be done in one availability zone, then we can use S3 one zone. S3 glacier deep archive is something where the retrieval time is very high, but the data which is stored here is that data which we will not require that much. S3 intelligent tiering is that ki, see, once suppose the data which is stored in S3 glacier deep archive and we need it now, so moving it to S3 standard or something, it's a very tedious process and we have to do it manually. So instead of that, AWS has now introduced S3 intelligent tiering. What it will do, if it sees that the data which is stored in S3 glacier deep, it is now accessing, people are accessing it, it will itself move that data to some other upper tier. So in this way it can changes the tiers. So that is why it is called S3 intelligent tiering. Okay, so according to the we there is S3 multi-part upload also, where like if we enable that multi-part upload, the data will be divided equally, and it will be stored in our S3 bucket parallelly. So in this way the speed will be fast, and we can, instead of taking much time for upload, we can do it fast. Parallel upload will be done, and there they can be put request, get request. We can even enable the on and in which region we are going to create the S3, and what kind of if we want life cycle management, what kind of access should be provided, how can we access that. So this all we have to mention while creating the S3 bucket, and then we can start uploading the data, retrieving the data from S3 bucket. So that's all for S3 storage service. And tomorrow I'll try to bring about, like, talk about eBase. And so yeah, that's all for today video. And I hope it's helpful and clear to all. And if there are any feedbacks for me, please feel free to share in comment section. So yeah, that's all. Bye.